America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the December 30th, 2014 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently serve as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Kevin Cook, who serves as vice chair and represents District 2, and Commissioner Shelley Bueller, who represents District 1. This is our last meeting of the year, so let's get started. Good morning. First item, please. Not first item. We need actually to add an item to the agenda if there is no opposition, and I will let the county clerk discuss what that is. And if it's okay, we'll add that as item I-1 to the agenda.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay, and this deals with the property and casualty insurance for Shawnee County, and it is time critical. If we have to take action on this today, or January the 1st, we don't have any property and casualty insurance. So it was a time-consuming process to get all the quotes that we needed, and but the good news is we're getting a great deal.
We're getting a wonderful deal.
So anyway, if there's not an objection, that will be added as I-1. First item now, please.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I have none.
I have none either.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business. A, county clerk. Number 1, I'm sorry, there are no vouchers today. Number 2, consider correction orders.
Are there correction orders?
Oh, there are none. I'm busy
Well,
looking at my, it's empty. It's not there.
All right.
Okay. Number 3, consider approval of resolution number 2014-119, authorizing a 2015 serial malt beverage license, including Sunday sales, to Dilemma LLC, doing business as Buzzard's Pizza, located at 4745 Northwest Hunters Ridge Circle.
Questions or comments?
Everything.
Yes, has met all,
Checked.
yeah, has
Yes.
done everything. Very good.
Move for approval of the licensure request.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B, bond council. Number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2014-120, authorizing the county, Oppenheimer and Company as underwriter and Robert J. Perry, Esquire, to effectuate the issuance of the county's debt obligations, a portion of which may be used to reduce interest costs on outstanding county bonds or its certificates of participation, and a portion of which will be used to acquire, construct, and install improvements to county facilities.
Good morning, Bob Perry. This resolution gives us authority to execute a retention agreement so that the county can retain an underwriter to basically provide some sets of numbers to Betty as she does an analysis to whether or not she's ready to do a refunding and how much it's going to cost for some new money improvements that are being contemplated.
I was discussing this with Betty earlier. Betty, would you?
Betty Greiner, Financial Administrator.
Could you give us a little overview of this also from the county's perspective?
Right. This is, I just want to make it clear that this does not obligate the county to anything at this time. This is purely an agreement that allows me to get some information on looking at some refunding of some bonds, particularly that may be able to save the county some money and interest. That's one of the things, and also to get some numbers that would be possible, interest numbers, debt service type things. So as he said, I can do an analysis on upcoming financing that we will need to do, and just kind of, like say, get the information I need for the analysis. This does not obligate the county in any way.
Okay. So this is an arrangement where we can get what-ifs.
Yes.
It doesn't, like you say, it doesn't obligate us to issue any debt or refund it.
Right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Any discussion, by the way, I apologize. Motion made by Commissioner Archer to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Betty. Next item.
Item C, corrections. Number 1, consider approval of request to post and fill a vacant maintenance tech 1's position at a salary including benefits of $37,654.31.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eve Kendall with the Department of Corrections. I have before you a request to fill the vacant maintenance tech position. This is a vacated position that we did have somebody in. They were dismissed unexpectedly, so we are asking to fill that position. It's not a new position. The funds are in the budget because we did expect to have someone there already. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions?
I have no questions. No. I'll
Okay.
move approval of the request.
Second.
Motion made to approve the request by Commissioner Bueller and seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you,
very
Commissioners.
much. Next item.
Item D, Register of Deeds. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contracts C-492 through C-494, 2014 with Heartland Title Inc., Lawyer's Title of Topeka, Inc., and Security One Title to rent space and use county equipment located at the Register of Deeds office at an annual cost for each title company of $800.
Morning, Commissioners. Becky Neosi, Register of Deeds. This is to renew the contract to lease space. It is shared space between the 3 title companies and utilize equipment. This has been a long-standing tradition. We partner with the title companies. They provide a service to our community. Allows them to have access not only to our records, but also to the treasurer's office, clerk's records, court records. Makes their office more, operations more efficient as well as ours, so, and provides revenue for the county, so. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do have
Questions?
one
Yes,
question.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The cost, has that changed? Or has it been $800 per?
I don't
title?
believe it's changed. I believe it was 800.
800 in the past.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Other questions
No, I
or
don't have any.
comments?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Becky. Next item.
Item E, Health Agency. Number 1, consider approval of request to pay revised costs for a data server for the Shawnee County Health Agency CHC Electronic Medical Records System with an increase of $817 for an Ethernet networking card and support for Oracle.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alice Weingartner, Health Agency. Back in October, you did approve the purchase of the server for the electronic medical record, and with continued work with the vendor, it was identified that there was some additional needs for that server, and so we have an invoice of $817. If you have technical questions regarding those pieces of equipment, Mark Price is here, but again, these are pieces, again, just to make sure that that server is working accordingly.
Questions or comments?
Move for approval of the Ethernet card for the additional $817.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item E2, consider approval of request to accept rate modifications with LabCorp for clinical laboratory services effective January 31st, 2015.
Commissioners, this request is for the new fee schedule that LabCorp has sent to us as part of the contract. They can provide us 30 days notice of a fee change, and so we're asking for your approval to accept that fee structure, so as those bills come in 2015, we can continue to pay those invoices.
You know, I looked at the fee structure, but I couldn't tell, it just gave what we were gonna charge. Is it higher or what?
Some of them are
what's-
higher, and they're about there's probably, it averages about a 50 cent per fee or per lab increase.
Okay.
And these amounts that we have, these are what we are charged, and so they're very, very competitive.
Well, we get
to
a
other-
discount.
We get an extreme discount, yes.
40 or 40%? 44%? Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Move approval of the new, or acceptance of the rate contract.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item E3, consider approval of request to pay annual medical malpractice insurance premium to Kansas Medical Mutual Insurance Company in a total amount of $14,766.
Commissioners, this is the annual medical malpractice that we use to cover for our providers. Historically, we have paid this fee for the physicians that we have in our clinic. Due to a change in the Kansas legislature last year, it now moves physicians' assistants and nurse midwives into that group of folks who need this coverage. And so the total cost for this malpractice is $14,766. And we did do a little comparison over the last 5 years, and we've been averaging just under $17,000 a year for that cost. So we are seeing a little bit of a reduction in the cost for the malpractice insurance.
Questions or comments?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller and seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item E4, consider authorization and execution of contracts C-495-2014 and C-496-2014 with True Green for lawn services at the Shawnee County Health Agency Main Clinic at 1615 Southwest 8th Avenue at a cost of $540, and the California Clinic at 2025 Southeast California Avenue at a cost of $1,306.
Commissioners, as it's noted, this is a renewal of the contract for the True Green services at 2 of our locations. As was also noted on the memo, that this contract, of course, would terminate once the county moves out of the 8th Avenue building. But again, those contracts will be reviewed for all of the facilities, again, as we look at those operational changes. But this would be for that 2015 service year.
I have a couple of questions, if I may. When did we sell the health agency building on 8th Street?
Did you say when?
When did we sell
I
it?
believe it was about 2.5 years ago.
And I guess I don't understand why we're paying for lawn service on a building we sold 2.5 years ago.
I believe that was part of the contract that was negotiated with the county, that we continue to maintain the building and the grounds of the building.
So that's part of the lease
Yes.
agreement, that we
Yes.
would do that?
Yes.
Okay. The other question I have is on the Southeast California property. We have like 11 visits per year, trees and shrubs, and the lawn is done 7 times a year. Is that a basic service? Is that the Cadillac of services? Have you looked at that? It just seemed, usually, it's been my experience that there'll be weed control, spring fertilizer, summer fertilizer, and fall fertilizer, 3 or 4 visits a year. That just seemed to be very, very high to me.
What I can tell you with regards to that is I know that there was quite an investment made in the grounds to that building, and the intent was to keep the grounds as nice as possible. And we don't have the staff to do that level of work.
Right.
And so we were making that investment in this service at a cost of $1,306 a year.
But we
So-
haven't asked for a more basic service.
We have not, no.
Commissioner, if I may.
Yes, go right ahead.
I know that this is a renewal contract, and this is a contract that we have with True Green presently. But have we looked at maybe the jail to see if the jail might be able to do the work, or if Parks and Recreation would have the ability? I know that Parks and Recreation, for some of the smaller spots, they've also included outsourcing some of their mowing and some of their lawn care, and including this in some of that smaller contract.
We have not talked about that this year. We have talked about it in previous years, and at that time, the discussion was that this was most cost-effective. We can certainly have that conversation again, and there is an out clause for us in this contract if we decide to go that route.
So I know that we found it to be more cost-effective for us to outsource some of the mowing of smaller parcels and having that on a group contract basis. I'm looking at John Knight, who's nodding his head, and I just wonder why we didn't include some of these other smaller parcels like the health agency.
Well, this is for lawn
This is
service.
service.
This
This
is
is
for
not
fertilizing
mowing. But
and
that's-
grub and weed control.
That, if I understand, I think that's some of the service, or was it just lawn care, or is it lawn service as well?
Good morning, Commissioners. We haven't actually gone out for bid on that. We are writing the specs. Any day now, we intend to come down here. We could go ahead and add this to that, the bid specs, when we go out for that as well.
Just to
Yes,
clarify,
Commissioner.
just to add another location, these locations onto your,
Yeah, right now, the Parks and Rec is looking at, well, all of our properties. Are we able to maintain it less expensive than the private industry, and which ones can we do that for? Quite honestly, we want to kind of get into it slowly rather than jump in with both feet to make sure that it works and we're getting the type of service that we want from those. But I would anticipate seeing something down here in a few weeks regarding that.
just to follow up question, Alice, would there be any reason why we couldn't wait to attach on to that bid potentially, or is?
I would have to go back and verify. I don't believe that there would be an issue with that, and we can certainly, if we want to defer this, we can go back and review that, and if it's something that John can add these properties onto that RFP, we can certainly go in that direction. I don't anticipate a lot of growing right now.
No,
So.
exactly.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to defer, and I won't put a time on it, I'll just move to
We don't
defer.
need a time certain. Okay.
Second.
Motion made to defer consideration of these contracts by Commissioner Bueller and seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Item 5, E5, consider approval of request to reallocate, reclassify to the following positions and request to fill any positions that arise from the allocations reclassifications. A, HA 1019, reclassify an emergency preparedness community outreach team leader position to HA 1019A, EPCO specialist position at a salary of $51,311, including benefits. And B, HA 1112, reallocate an EPCO specialist position from a range 22, step 3, to a range 26, step 3, at a salary of $53,578, including benefits.
Morning, Commissioners. Allison Alejos, Health Agency. Before you, you have an item, as Ms. Beck read, talking about the reallocation that we want to do in reclassification of 2 positions within the Health Agency. Our emergency preparedness and community outreach program has been in existence since 2003, and we've had a variety of changes in staffing levels and funding over the last 10, 11 years. One of the last changes we had was our team leader left to go back into a more active duty role with the National Guard, and as a result, we've had a vacancy there for some time. We haven't moved forward with trying to get that filled quickly because we knew that there were lots of changes coming forward in the health agency, and we wanted to really take some time to review the program, what the requirements of the program were, and really make sure that we were doing the best job we could with what the resources that we had. And so we've solicited input from management, the staff that were remaining in the program, and looked at what the needs are from the grant, the requirements of the grant, and have come up with what we believe to be a good plan for the future. What we are asking to do is to take our team leader position and reclassify that to a emergency preparedness and outreach or community outreach specialist position, and then also take another EPCO specialist position and reclassify that to a higher range pay. We have revamped the job description. We have increased the requirements, the educational requirements. It's a degree required field now. There's a lot of responsibility both locally and regionally to develop plans, to look at and work on disease containment matters, to work on surveillance issues, to make sure that we're prepared to respond in the event we should have some sort of public health issue that would occur in Shawnee County. the overall cost for this change is only going to increase our expenditure by $2,620. So we feel like it's a good, reasonable request. It is flattening out. We didn't feel like it was necessary to have a team leader position for one staff in the program, which is what would be in place right now if we had continued in the same manner as it's been. So anyways, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've also got Ed Kalis here with me that can help answer questions if you have any.
Position's been vacant, not for quite some time, but well over a year from what I understand. I'd like to make a motion to defer consideration of this for a couple of weeks. I really haven't had an opportunity to review it, and I just haven't talked to our finance administrator. I haven't talked to John Thummel, and I'll take the blame for not doing my homework on this, but I'll make a motion to defer this for a couple of weeks, so I'll have an opportunity to review the merits of the reclassifications.
I'll second that request.
Okay.
I would note that I did have a conversation with the agency as well as with the emergency management as to whether or not this falls under emergency management, and it has been demonstrated why this is outside of emergency management as a separate function of the health agency.
Okay.
But I would second the
All
motion.
right. Do you have thoughts,
No.
Commissioner?
No, I'm okay with it, but I'm okay with deferral as well, so.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion made to defer for 2 weeks by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Item F, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider approval of revised project budget for the Southwest Carlson Road Bridge over Mission Creek project, reflecting increased construction costs resulting from mandated permitting requirements by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Division of Water Resources, and the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Flanagan, Public Works. As we're requesting to increase this budget, it's basically due to higher construction costs that we're experiencing due to some mandates, federal mandates and state mandates associated with the Tropus, Topeka, Shiner, and erosion control enhancements that are regulations that are coming on mandated by the state of Kansas and EPA. We've also got experiencing higher than anticipated costs for steel and concrete, so that's why we're asking to increase the project budget.
Questions or comments for Tom?
Just a question, Tom, on the increases will come from which source then? Where does the funding for most of this come from?
The majority of this increase will be paid by Federal Highway Administration. There's 3 sources of funds for this project: Federal Highway Administration, Shawnee County, our 2004 sales tax money, and Wabunsee County, since it shares we share this with Wabunsee County.
Thank you.
Good question, thank you. Other questions, Commissioner Cook?
Motion to approve the revised project budget so we can protect the Topeka Shiner.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Those say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item F2, consider approval of request to award bid for the Southwest Carlson Road Bridge over Mission Creek project at a cost of $915,534.10, and authorization to pay Shawnee and Wabunsee County's local match share in the amount of $202,000.
Commissioners, on December 17th, KDOT accepted bids for this particular project. Since there's federal money involved with the project, they have to administer it. They let the contract, and we participate in the local share of the cost. 5 bids were received, ranging in price between $915,000 and $1.3 million. And this item is for your concurrence to have KDOT enter into a contract with Reese Construction Company out of Scandia, Kansas, and authorizes us to pay our local match share of $202,000. Again, Shawnee County's share of the local match comes from the 2004 half-cent sales tax.
Additional questions, discussion?
I'll move to award the bid to Reese Construction.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller and seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item F3, consider approval of change order number 1, final, to contract C 293-2014 with Claver Construction Company, Inc. for the Southwest Docking Road Bridge over Haskell Creek project, resulting in a net decrease of $3,624.
Commissioners, this is a routine closeout change order, compares as constructed prices to those of as bid prices. The project came in $3,624 under the original budget amount. Again, funding for this is 2004 half-cent sales tax.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller and seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item F4, consider approval of change order number 2, final, to contract C 29-2013 with Ham Inc. for the Southeast 45th Street, Southeast Adams to Southeast Kansas Avenue project, resulting in a net increase of $4,179.74.
Commissioners, this is also a project closeout change order comparing the as-built to as-bid. One thing I failed to mention in the memorandum is the original approved project budget for this particular project was $7,497,000, and the final project cost came in at $6,085,000, or we underspent the budget by $1.4 million. And this actually completes all of the assigned road projects that Shawnee County administers as part of the 2004 sales tax.
Would you repeat that? I want to make sure Tim got that note as far as the numbers go.
Well, we came in.
What were those numbers?
Well, the approved budget was $7,497,368.34. And the final project costs were $6,085,788.10, or a savings of $1,411,580.24.
Thank you for
we did pretty
humoring
good.
me.
We
Tom,
need to
I
thank
appreciate
Ham.
it. Huh?
We need to thank Ham for
Okay.
that. They
But-
gave us such a good bid.
Yeah, but it was managed well, end to end,
Thank
by
you.
our Public Works Department.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions or comments on the change order?
Motion to approve the final budget.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. Second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Tom.
Commissioners.
Stick around if you would, because
Sure.
I'd like comments on something else later. Next item, please.
Item G, audit finance number 1, update on revenues and expenditures.
Good morning. This is your snapshot view of our financial overview for November 30th of 2014. We'll look at our revenue first, and this is our total year-to-date revenue. The total we've received in revenue through November 30th is $102,042,000. Our budgeted for that same period of time was $96,431,000. And that gives us a positive variance, or an actual over budget of $5,610,903. If we look at just the month of November, we are under budget by $49,000, which to me, given the numbers, is right on budget. So our total revenue numbers for the month of November are right on budget. And then I'll take us through the categories. This chart, though, kind of shows you that the blue section is property taxes. So of course, as we've always said, that our vast portion of our revenue comes from our property taxes. We go next to our property tax category. We've received $70,933,000 compared to our budget of $69,586,000. So, and this is the same as it was last month. We did not receive any distributions in November, so these numbers have not changed. So we have a positive variance of $1,347,748, which is 1.9% over what I had estimated. When I say budgeted, on the revenue side, that's really more an estimation. And that is estimating what the delinquencies are going to be. You know, we take what was levied and then I estimate what the delinquents will be. So from that, it appears that we obviously had fewer delinquents. If I go on to special assessments, now this is the category that we are slightly under budget on. We've received, and there again, this is the same as last month also, because there was no distributions for this in November. But we've received $3,859,000 compared to a budget of $4,221,000. We look at other taxes. We have we've received $11,434,000 compared to our budgeted amount of $9,523,000, or a variance over budget of $1,910. And that is actually a budget variance of 20% over what I estimated. And as we've talked about this almost every month, majority of that is from motor vehicle taxes that came in much higher than the state had estimated. We look at property-related fees, and those are down slightly this year. We've received $2,246,000 compared to our budget of $2,433,000. And the major component of this would be our mortgage registration fees, and that's really kind of hard to estimate from year to year because it's just purely based on the mortgages that are filed and the fees that are connected with that. Okay, if we go on to charges for services, we have received $5,946,000 compared to a budget of $6,283,000. So we are $336,000 under budget, but it represents 5.4%. So there again, this is something that is hard to estimate. Part of these charges are charges for the DOC charges for jail services, and you know, there again, that's something that really can't be predicted. And this is the area that has been the most beneficial for us this year. That is the miscellaneous revenue. We've received $7,620,000 compared to a budget of $4,382,000. And as we've talked before, the variance is $3,238,000, and primarily from $2 million that we received from defeasances that occurred this year, and then also $512,000 from clawbacks. And those are items that really cannot be budgeted. So that has been very advantageous for us this year. This shows the revenue by the different categories, and just kind of lets you see, you know, there again, it shows that the vast majority of our revenue comes from property taxes and how those compare to budgeted amount and the 2013 actual amount in each of those categories. The next chart just kind of shows it in a different way, and these are our year-to-date revenue numbers. As you can see, 70% comes from property taxes. If you add the other tax amount of 11%, you can see that 81% of our revenue comes from taxes, and then special assessments, which are collected as part of taxes, is another 4%. So you can really see the vast majority of our revenue comes from property taxes. Okay, now if we go on to the expenditure side, you can see our total expenditures year-to-date through November 30th were $85,142,000 compared to budgeted of $88,335,000. So we have a variance of $3,193,000. So we have spent under our budget. Now, of that, as we've talked before, this has the primary portion of that is from debt service, which is $2.1 million under budget. But that also leaves $1 million under budget from all of our different departments. And I know and for the month of November, we are $171,000 over budget, which, there again, on a percentage basis, that is right on budget. So, although I've said this before, I want to say it again, our departments have worked very hard to stay within their budgets this year. I know it was a tough budget year for everyone, and I think they have worked very diligently to stay within their budgets. This is a chart just like the other one, but it breaks it down into the categories. Public safety, judicial, and emergency services, you can see that is by far the number one category of where we spend the most funds. Number 2 is recreation and culture, with the number 3 being operational services. And this is another way of looking at this. If you look at our public safety, judicial, and emergency services, that makes up 44% of all of our expenditures, followed by recreation and culture, which is 17%, and then operational services is 14%. You'll see that debt service is only 10% of our expenditures for the year, and public works is only 6%. And there again, as I pointed out before, that is because of the JADO funds that we are using for those public works projects. So, I will stand for questions.
Questions for Betty? What question I had, and we talked about we were receiving more revenue from motor vehicles than the state had estimated.
Yes.
Do you think there will be a spillover of that? I know that they estimated a significant increase for 2015. Do you think we're seeing some of that now, and that the estimate that they've given for 2015 may be a little overblown?
No, I think that the estimate, from what we looked at, I think the estimate for 15, it looks more in line with what it should be. So at this point in time, I think the 15 estimate that we received from the state should be right in line with where it needs to be.
Okay, Commissioner Bueller.
Betty, could you explain to the debt service and the reason there is such a difference between budgeted and actual?
Several reasons. Part of it was some refunding we did, so we were able to save on the interest costs of the refunded debt service. Another item was part of the debt service, that the portion that was for the radios, we were able to pay out of the 911 funds. The 911 fees that the customers pay goes into we get a portion of that from the state, and that goes into a special fund. We were able to pay the radio's portion of the debt service out of that fund. Now, that's something that we hope to be able to do for several years, but long term, I don't know that we will be able to continue that past a few years.
Okay.
So those are the primary
Reasons.
yes.
Very good.
Big
Commissioner Cook?
difference.
As always, very much appreciated.
Well, I do have one other comment. I've been watching December, and since we were just about at the end of December, it looks to me at this point in time that the variances will pretty much stay the same through the end of the year. So I think we will be able to maintain those positive variances that we have for December. Now, it's hard to completely estimate because some of our utility, costs and those type of things for December don't come in until January. But at this point in time, by estimations, it looks like these variances should hold through the end of the year.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Betty. Next item.
Item H, Commission Number 1, 2014 Shawnee County Accomplishments.
Yes, is there an IT person here? I thought so. I would just like for this to go on perhaps the first page. For a couple of weeks, we'll
Okay.
get the document to you. I had asked several weeks ago all elected officials and department heads to give me what were their 2 or 3 major accomplishments for the year. I think we have an obligation to taxpayers to let them know what they're getting for their money. And so we do have a listing of 2014 accomplishments, and they're really outstanding. A couple of things I wanted to mention to make sure that they were well known. In community corrections, there was a significant reorganization of the agency, and they were awarded a KDOC behavioral health grant. Research and extension, the focus was on 4-H enrollment, Dover Pride, the Master Gardeners Program, and then educational assistance and Medicare Part D enrollment. Register of Deeds, I'm glad Becky stayed, had actually converted 2.8 million images into digital format, which makes them readily available for searching online. And our information technology department, as we approved a month or so ago, a big reorganization of IT and adoption of the Agile development strategy. The other for IT was integration of the county tax system from a mainframe-based program to a client server platform. And emergency management, training, volunteers, and activation of critical mission area, planning, response, and recovery. In corrections, the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, very, very successful. Also in corrections, there were significant technology enhancements and increased partnerships with law enforcement and the courts. In audit finance, we've seen dramatic increases in our financial reporting and transparency of our financial information. We had a smooth budget process. It was completed 1 week before the deadline. It was approved unanimously. And also in audit finance, we have competitive bids for countywide goods, which is saving us money. On the elections, we had a successful primary and general election, and also the mail-in ballot for USD 501. Parks and Rec, we had a master plan that was completed, and we also had operational efficiencies. And I would ask John in the next few weeks, because I couldn't include everything here that John gave me. I was trying to keep it short, and I think the public would like to have an update on the strategic plan, where we stand, where we're going. And also, I think it would be good for the public to know the operational efficiencies we've had. We just ended year 3, Parks and Rec consolidation, very successfully, in my opinion. And I think it'd be good to report to the public how well that consolidation has gone. Human resources, we've digitized records. We're working with the Topeka Workforce Center. We've hired over 1,000 employees, permanent and temporary and seasonal. Public Works, we completed the final 2.5-cent sales tax, roadway projects. We saved the county an estimated $2.75 million to $3 million by performing by Public Works the vast majority of mitigation work at the Old Country County landfill in lieu of having that work contracted out. And Tom, I would come back up. One thing that didn't get on the list that Tom Block mentioned was working on the 46th Street project and how we did the timing of that to save money. Would you go over that real quick, because we didn't get a chance to get that in our report, and I want to make sure that we get that documented.
Yes, we had two projects up there, Northwest 46th and Topeka Boulevard, which would be a sales tax funded project, and then we had 46th and Rochester Road project. And we had them scheduled at one time to be done separately, but we felt like if we could combine those two projects, economies of scale would allow us to build the project with one contractor, do it in one season, and save us significant amounts of money. And I think we accomplished that mission.
We saved 7 figures from what I recall.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's an example of strategic thinking and of trying to save money for taxpayers. Health agency, the service area competition grant, the safety net system redesign, very, very important. We had a recognition from HRSA for quality services. We implemented Board of Health meetings on a quarterly basis. We had community health improvement planning, and then we implemented the incident command structure for Ebola response. And last but not least, the county clerk participated in converting the county property tax system, which has gone very smoothly from what I understand. There was a reduction in staff and the AP employees, and they stepped up and did a good job. And then finally, the county payroll system converted to mandatory direct deposit or Visa pay card system. Thank you for providing those achievements. They are significant, and I think we can be proud to report to the taxpayers of Shawnee County that we've had a good year. Next item, please.
Item I, number 1, consider the binding the 2015 property insurance coverage. And we have with us today the representatives from Willis, our carrier, so they will, Mr. Niswanger will.
Very good. Welcome.
Explain.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Niswanger from the Willis Group here in Topeka. I'm happy to attend this morning. And first of all, I want to wish each of you season's greetings. I do want to apologize for the lateness of the agenda. We did go through an RFP process this year, and it was just this weekend that Jan Mason and I were getting final numbers from one of the carriers and working to get that prepared for you. So we did that. It was completed on Monday. This morning I do want to introduce a couple of associates who are with me from Willis. Jan Mason, who is here in Topeka with me, and Nathan Sechrist is a partner and producer of mine, also visiting today. I think it was about 4 years ago when I was sitting out there and Steve Wanamaker was standing here, and Steve said, "I'm announcing my retirement." And so I'm standing here today. Nathan and Jan are there. So I'm planning to retire here very shortly. So what this means is that Nathan and Jan will be kind of on point and front line with you going forward. In conjunction with our team, Willis, I do want to, you were saying some nice compliments about people here at the county and what's been done. And Cindy's department, we work primarily with John Morgan and Rhonda Praisewater throughout the year. Cindy's very engaged in everything well, and also facilitates us to deal with other department heads and Public Works, the counselor's office, IT, finance. So it's an active group. With this being said, the insurance items that we are specifically addressing today are the property insurance, and for the county, this involves almost $284 million in real property, business personal property, and computer property. The other main lines involved are the excess workers' compensation, which is for the county is a self-insured, but this is a catastrophic coverage that applies on top of that. That's based on about $49 million in payroll. And lastly, an automobile program for liability insurance, almost 500 units. So you'll recall last year, I think at this time, we talked about probably every 3 to 4 years on a very active, formal basis, we recommend an RFP process. And in intervening years, we're able to do that informally to catch any significant changes in the market and respond to those. But this year was the formal RFP was on the agenda, and we really started on this in the summer, preparing specifications, and we've met with Cindy and again started about that time. And the results of that are included in a brief executive summary that you each should have. And this states the results that we had in the contacts. And there were 16 insurance companies involved. 9 different carriers looked at the property insurance, 6 at the auto, 4 at the crime, and 3 at the excess workers' compensation. And I think I'm very pleased to report, as I've heard others before me talk about things going down, the very bottom line for the county is that the pricing is down about 8.9%. It'll be about a $68,000 reduction from current year. And a large part of this was due to the traveler's insurance. Theirs was one of the final numbers that came in, but their premium costs are down around 20%. And your limits are up a little bit, but the net on that is from 413,000 down to 330,000. A good part of this too, and I think I've handed one of these out before, but this is pretty telling on the property insurance. This comes from Sandy Prager's office, the insurance commissioner, and this shows the trends of losses in Kansas. 2011 was an absolute nightmare year, and things beyond, as you can see, the bar graph go down, and its losses from then were about half in number as well as amount. That was over $1 billion in property losses in Kansas. So far this year, it's 112 million, so that's a huge reduction, and that's helping all the carriers. Are there any questions so far?
But the premium's also experience rated, right?
Yes, I mean, this has
So
your experience has been good too.
Okay.
The county's experience,
Right.
it kind of coincided with this in 11, and so your experience has done well.
Okay.
On page 4 of the summary, we included really as a memo item, informational item on the Travelers Program. We did, in addition to talk pricing with them, we're always talking substantially about coverages and terms. And we did negotiate several improvements in the program, enhancements. One of the significant items was a reduction in the deductible that applies for wind and hail losses, which has been $100,000. That's down to $50,000. The ordinary across-the-board deductible for all other perils is currently at $10,000. Action is not needed on the following items that I wanted to mention, and we've talked about this before. We're continually looking at alternatives for the county, and there are some informal work groups that have been established that Cindy has set up. One was on the cyber insurance, about security breaches and things like that. That is still in process. I think the plan will be to secure a formal proposal sometime during the year on that. Other things that Cindy and we have talked about somewhat regularly have been about deductibles. Cindy, I don't know if you want to mention anything about the department heads and the amounts. We did ask for a higher deductible just to illustrate some savings. And the risk management textbooks tell you to go as high as you can comfortably afford. Sometimes the savings doesn't look so good or look as impressive as that, but to go from $10,000 to a $25,000 deductible would annually save the county about $4,500. So you assume another $15,000 of potential risk for any one claim, and you'd save $4,500. The other things that we talked about recently were just, again, we would suggest these for further work group study, would be flood and earthquake insurance, at least to consider it. The flood is probably not as significant in our eyes as the earthquake issues are. I've looked at the U.S. Geological Survey reports a few days ago, and they talked about Kansas had 4 minor earthquakes, and there's a little bit of information on that. I think the probability they say is less than 2% for a 5.0 or above in 50 years for Shawnee County. So it's a pretty slight exposure. Again, we're not wanting to force any buying pressures, just at least to have you make knowing decisions and know these options. So I think we'll be talking more about that. Cindy, I didn't mean to cut anything off as far as your comments on the deductible.
No, I had told them when we met that, when we looked at the deductible, raising it from 10 to 25,000, I said, you don't understand the department heads have to hold, and if something happens there in their specific areas, they are responsible through their budgets for the deductible. So the $10,000 is quite of a squeaking point already, so I don't think raising it to 25,000 for a $4,500 savings would be necessarily a good budget procedure.
Well, and I noticed John Knight walked out of the room as soon as we started talking about extra liability for department heads.
Okay, all right. Well, that's pretty much the
Okay.
report. Lastly, I want to thank you very much for your courtesies, and we certainly appreciate representing the county. And I also want to personally say we thank you too for the work you do, service to the county.
We thank you, Bill, and we wish you much success in retirement.
Thank you.
It's been great working with you.
All right, thank you.
Any questions for Bill?
Oh, I just do have one.
Commissioner Cook?
On the last page, you have listed out different buildings that the county has and values, contents, property in open, I think is what it's labeled as. When we're looking at those valuations, are those replacement costs or actual costs?
The insurable replacement cost is what we're targeting. That would be different from sales value, market value, construction value. It's really its own thing, but we're looking at replacement costs new. There can be some exceptions on a case-by-case basis where a company might, due to age or condition, might not want to offer the replacement cost, but generally we're looking at replacement cost.
Okay. And that was just a question I'd had on what standard we were looking at.
Right. Good.
Commissioner Buell.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Ashley, what is the appropriate motion here? Is it to approve the 2015 insurance coverage documented in the county clerk's memo of December 29th, 2014? Would that be the...
Yeah, that's fine. That's, I believe, the same motion that you made for the malpractice insurance, and this would be similar to that,
Okay.
so yes.
Then I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Good morning, Commissioners. Steve Bauman, Interim Appraiser. Here today, I'd like to give you kind of an early outlook on our 2015 values and where they stand.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. And what this is, it's a sales ratio report of our residential properties. And what this is going to tell you, among a few other things, is that we're not looking at much of an increase or decrease in value this upcoming 2015 year. I know early on we had kind of an optimistic outlook that we may have been seeing some increases in our market. That's kind of gone away, and maybe even into 2015 as well. Wichita State School of Business, they produce a market outlook, and they're seeing the same things that I'm showing you here today. So there are some positive things in our market. So it's not all doom and gloom. values are remaining steady. New home permits are remaining steady. I've got some commercial new construction in Shawnee County, which is always encouraging. This handout that I gave you, if you look at the front sheet, it's just kind of a summary of all of the sales that have taken place in 2014 to date. We're not done with them. November and December sales are not all worked yet. But you can see our median ratio, which is what we place the most reliance, is at 98.62%. That means our appraised values are at 98.62% of the sale prices. Very good indication. And then our COD, which is the coefficient of dispersion, measures the uniformity of the values at 7.32. We are supposed to be between 5 and 15% according to state guidelines, and 7.32 is an excellent number. Anywhere below 5 and they'll tell you you're cheating. So, and then the PRD, the number at the end, that's another number that the state looks at and measuring our performances of 101. The numbers that they consider acceptable, 98 to 103. So we're within that, and what that is, it's price-related differential. It measures the progressivity, regressivity of the market of our values, and whether or not we're overpricing lower value homes or undervaluing higher value homes. And this is telling us that we don't really have any bias there. So,
Good.
Next pages are a couple of graphs, and the histogram on page 2. You know, in our education throughout the appraisal process, we've learned about a bell curve, and if that bell curve is looking nice and bell-shaped, then we're doing a good job with the uniformity. And then the third page there is a scattergram of different plots, and here's where you can see visually our market really hasn't changed throughout the year. The January through December of 2014, all of the sales are plotted across there, and it's hovering at that 98% mark all the way through the year. And it's not showing really a downward trend, not an upward trend. So that's what we're looking at. We will have a few neighborhoods that will see modest gains, but there won't be much in the way of overall value increases. Be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions for Steve? Commissioner?
No, this is very helpful information. I mean, I'm glad you've brought it
Yeah.
publicly.
Good.
I mean, I know commissioners have seen this, but for the public to understand that there is a process by which you all follow and that the commissioners don't set appraised values. I hear that often, and that's not the truth. So I appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Becky Neosi, Register of Deeds. Just wanted to remind everyone that our filing fees are going up. So it'll be starting January 1st. Our first day of business will be January 2nd. Filing fees going up, mortgage registration tax going down. So check our website for the fees or give us a call. Thanks.
Thank you, Becky. Others? Commissioner Cook?
Just want to thank everybody for being back. I know this is kind of a short week, but it's safe and happy holidays, and glad to be back as well.
Good. It's always good to get back to work.
And on
Commissioner?
that note, no meeting on Thursday.
No meeting on Thursday.
Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for all your hard work this past year.
Exactly. I understand that Stephanie Mott's birthday is coming up, and I can't sing, and I don't think anybody up here can. But Stephanie, if you can hear us, happy birthday to you. And again, I want to thank everyone for a successful 2014. Thank you, and Happy New Year, everyone. Next item.
Item 6, executive session.
Not a need, so we're adjourned.